Hello, everyone. I am so thrilled to be here today with the fabulous Lisa Archer. We met about a year ago, I think.
Yeah, a little
Um,
over a year ago.
yeah, a little bit over a year ago through a common friend, Morley Robbins,
Mhm.
and we both went through his training. Let me give you a little bit of background about Lisa. She is a certified master herbalist, and it's AAWP. Is that correct?
Yes, through the AAWP.
Okay. A clinical homeopath. You also are a functional medicine certified coach and a root cause protocol consultant. Did I miss anything in there?
No, I am additionally trained as a vitalist I'm midway through that training, but it's principles that I use with my clients, but I don't use magnets currently in practice. And maybe that's yet to come, but I do use those principles with my clients.
So, lifelong learner.
Yes.
And share with the audience a bit about your background, what brought you to where you are today. We have many things in common along this path, but would love to hear your story, and we'll start there.
Yes. Well, so 15 years ago, I was a comedic dinner theater actress. I did dinner theater, and I won't say it's the most lucrative thing that I ever did, but honestly the most fun that I've ever had in a job. Did that, loved what I did. I was a young mom. I was extremely active. I was a runner. I played tennis. Just into everything. My background prior to that, I'm very whole brained, so I have a math science background, but I also have a design background and a creative background, obviously. So straddle both sides of the fence. But basically what happened is I moved into a house that had mold in it, and I got very, very sick. And at the time, yeah, I was interested in health. I was dabbling in some things, but I wasn't, where I am today. And so basically what happened was I got sick, and I went to the doctor, and he gave me antibiotics. And we just went on this 2-year journey of me constantly getting antibiotics and constantly getting sick. And obviously it wasn't solving anything. And along the way, I mean, it was all these different things that they kept telling me, oh, you have this problem, you have this problem. At one point, they told me I had narcolepsy because I was so epically fatigued, and I would just fall asleep like that. And so, just I was very much in the medical system of getting all the various diagnoses and whatnot, and constantly getting pharmaceuticals. And basically, long story short, was 2 years into that journey, I had a severe adverse reaction to an antibiotic that I was given. And I called the doctor, and I told him what was going on because I was having a neurological event. And his statement was, oh, it's just, the sinus infection. It must be really, really virulent. So your sinuses are probably swollen and leaning on a nerve. Why don't you come in, and I'll give you a steroid injection, and we'll just dose you again with the antibiotic to knock this out. Well, the problem with that was I was reacting to the antibiotic, which is now no longer manufactured because of the lawsuits against it. And that drug is never supposed to be combined with a steroid. So basically, the problem that I was dealing with became exponentially worse. The neurological reaction went from a localized reaction to systemic. In addition to overnight, I couldn't walk. All of my connective tissues were horribly damaged. I had profound systemic nerve damage. I was in burning nerve pain as if I were on fire from the inside out. And so I basically went from extremely active to being disabled overnight. And I remember sitting in the doctor's office, and thankfully, he realized what had happened. He realized that it was a drug reaction. And so a lot of people aren't that fortunate for their doctor to recognize what went on. But he wanted to write me as permanently disabled. And I basically, in that moment, something rose up within me, and I said, no. I said, I absolutely will not accept permanence. That word's not in my vocabulary. I said, all that means is you don't know how to solve it. It doesn't mean it can't be solved. So even though I couldn't walk, I still I didn't take a permanent disability. I didn't take a permanent handicap tag. I told him, I said, I'll let you write me an order for a temporary tag, which I then had to renew every 6 months. And I said, but I'm not in nothing permanent. And so basically I went home and I sat down with my laptop in my lap and I started to research, because that's just the fabric of who I am. I'm, like you said, I'm a lifelong learner, always was. And I thought, okay, we're going to solve this, because this is not how this ends for me. And basically I went down the rabbit hole, and the more I learned, the more I studied, the more I actually realized that I loved learning about the body and how the body worked. And it came very naturally to me. And so I wound up reversing the nerve damage through holistic means, because that was a big thing that they said, well, that's not solvable. And I 100% solved it. Got myself walking again, got a lot of things reversed, but because of the catastrophic damage, and then because of some very hard things that were happening to me in my personal life at the time. There was a lot of trauma that took place in addition to that trauma. That wasn't
That's a big trauma.
Yes, there were some additional traumas. I wound up learning that I was dealing with cancer. And so I basically decided at that point, because I had already been down the rabbit hole of healing the body through holistic means, I made the decision that I was not going to go the standard route. And it's funny, because most people, I'm actually going to have to run around and tell some people in my personal life, hey, guess what? Because there's a lot of people that even to this day don't know the full story of what I've gone through, because I've kept quiet about some of those things. And for me, and I'm not saying that everybody needs to not share with the masses when you're going through something, but for me, because of certain things that people were saying to me, and pressure that I had on me from people in my life, to go a way of treatment that did not resonate with me, that I didn't feel at peace about, I just decided I'm just not really going to share. So honestly, that first time, there's probably only a couple of people that I even told. And I chose to do some things that came out of Europe that were natural, and got free of cancer the first time. But additionally, figured there were some lingering things that were going on. And in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, permanent's not in my vocabulary. The body was designed and created to heal if given the right environment. So what's the hang up? Why I'm doing all these things? What's the hang up on what's happening with my body? And I kept getting this flashback memory of a tick bite that I had when I was a little girl. And I couldn't get anybody to pay any attention to me. I would go to the doctor and I'd say, I think I'm dealing with Lyme disease. And they would tell me no. And I'd say, can you at least test me? And they would tell me no. I mean, I got ignored so many times over. And so finally I went, you know what? If you won't help me, I'll figure it out myself. So I researched and figured out a lab that I could order for myself, which I did. And this was a lab that the score on the lab was supposed to be 200 and above for a healthy immune system not impacted by Lyme. And when my score came back, it was 9. And I mean, that's just scraping the bottom of the barrel. So I knew, I'm like, okay, this is what it is. So I remember walking into the doctor's office and I handed in the papers, slid it across the desk, and I said, now do you believe me? And of course it was a, resounding yes. But then I promptly fired him, because, if somebody's not listening to you and not willing to walk the journey, then they're not good for your team.
Well, and I think what you've shared, Lisa, is so common. And especially for women is, something happens. I have a friend who focuses on pelvic floor, and she was on 11 medications. She was having all this pain down in her pelvic region, and they kept telling her, it's in your head, it's in your head, it's in your head. And she started Pilates, and 4 months later, off all drugs, doing great, right? And now she's launched her, her career is focused on helping women with pelvic floor issues, which are totally solvable,
Right.
with certain things. So what you're sharing is so common that it's almost like you've got to use your voice so loudly and
Yes.
advocate for yourself.
Yes.
And so you were able to do that, and that's
Right.
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So then basically what I decided at that point was, okay, all right, well, I'll figure this part out too. So I began to study, and then I realized, I should actually probably get some initials behind my name. And so the first thing that I did was I went through the Institute for Functional Medicine, their coaching program for basically a non-medical doctor. So I went as far as I could with that. And it served me well, but it wasn't enough for me. It didn't give me the ability to help to the depth that I wanted. So then I just continued to, as you shared, all of the things that are, credentials that I have, I just continued to study, and got myself to the point of, that Lyme was, I hate the word remission because I don't believe anything's permanent. And I believe that it doesn't matter how long it's been in my body, it can become a non-issue completely. But I got myself to the spot where I would say I was in remission from Lyme. I had a few lingering things that the antibiotic did to me, and so I was working on that. But then, of course, the pandemic came around. And, it's quite interesting because I was helping a lot of people during that time to stay well and to not wind up in the hospital. And the irony of it all is that I wound up getting very, very sick, literally to the point that I almost died. I mean, I remember laying in bed thinking it would just be easier to stop breathing, because my lungs were so wrecked. And I fought to stay out of the hospital, and did a lot of things to recover myself. And, it was 2 weeks of being epically sick. Got to the other side of it. But the problem is that virus causes a lot of other issues in the body, and it causes things that are inactive in the body to activate. And so for me, Lyme came out of remission, and there were so many things that started happening with my body, which then is where I wound up finding out that I was dealing with cancer for the second time. And at that point, I was annoyed. So most people would be afraid. I was like, seriously, are we doing this again? Like, I don't have time for this. So once again, I chose to go the holistic route. I didn't say a whole lot to a lot of different people, just because, it's one of those, you could sit around and be in fear all by yourself. I didn't need any additional assistance with that. So the more voices that you have, people get really, really afraid when they don't, because that's a big, scary word. And they don't recognize it. The way I look at it is, okay, the check engine light is on my car. So this is telling me, okay, hey, we have an issue. So I need to deal with it. So once again, it was the same attitude that I had before, which is, I'm not broken. I'm just out of balance, and I need to work on bringing the balance. And so I started working that journey all over again, began to use natural means, which are my staple. So began to work on that. But it was a huge gift. The second go round was a huge gift, because there was one day I was laying in bed and I was just so exhausted. And I just, I'm a person of faith, and I was talking to God, and I'm thinking through like, okay, all right, what do I know about the mitochondria? What can I do to support my mitochondria? How can I help give my body more energy? And I kept thinking, I'm missing something. And so I just simply said to God, I said, what am I missing? And I mean, it was clear as day. It might as well have been audible. The word copper dropped into my mind. And so I said, all right, God, well, I'm entirely too exhausted to research this, which everybody who knows me laughs when I tell that story, because I'm never too tired to research. And so I told him, I said, I need you to put the exact information directly in front of me that I need. And 2 days later, a woman who, when my son was in preschool, who he's all grown now, but when my son was in preschool, we knew this woman. She calls me up out of the blue and she says, hey, Lisa, I've been thinking about you. I don't know why you just keep coming to mind. I was listening to this interview with a man named Morley Robbins, and he wrote a book about copper. And I don't know, I just think you'd be interested in it. So I thanked her. I didn't tell her what was going on, but I thanked her. I said, that's great. 2 days later, I'm on a Zoom call with some dear friends in Kentucky, and through a ministry that I've helped with. And we get to the end of the Zoom call. There's a woman on the Zoom call that I had never met before. Her name was Ray. And she says, Lisa, I I just can't get this idea out of my head. She said, you know, every time, you know, you pop up on the screen, I keep thinking, oh man, I should tell her about this interview that I heard with a man named Morley Robbins, and he wrote a book about copper. So then that took me down the journey of getting trained under Morley, who is fantastic, and learning all about balancing minerals and bringing all of that into balance, and learning about the fact that cancer cells have the highest content of iron of any cell in the body. And, you know, labs, when I drew my labs, it looked like I was anemic, but in reality, it wasn't that I was anemic. I wasn't low in iron. The iron was just sequestered in my tissues because my iron recycling system wasn't working right. So I began to walk that process of straightening that out, which was a part of the process of getting me to the other side of, you know, cancer for the second time. And so now I am free of all of that. I'm doing really well. Yes. And I would say, once again, I'm in remission from Lyme, and all that I'm working on is a mold exposure that I had at my house that I've got to walk the process again of, okay, just dealing with the mold and, you know, all of that. But yeah, that's my personal journey. But for me, with the work that I do with people, it's a labor of love, because one, I know what it's like to go through epic hardship in the body. I know what it's like to feel trapped inside of my body. I know what it's like to feel so overwhelmed and not knowing what to do and where to turn. And I feel like I've been around the barn a number of times, and my long journey can consolidate somebody else's journey into a shorter journey because of the school of hard knocks that I've been through, but then also the formal training. So, you know, that's where I am now, is helping people to get to the other side of the challenges and live their best life.
Yeah, so you've shared some really great nuggets. One is the body's designed to heal.
Mm-hmm.
There are natural therapies out there that support the body versus blocking pain receptors, blocking pathways in the body, right? Which is what the allopathic model really offers.
Yes.
So what are some other nuggets that you've learned along the way that you apply in your practice in helping others?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Mindset is huge. So it's really easy to get into this mindset of, you know, of victim mentality, you know, and you have your moment where you can get angry and frustrated and, you know, sad, and all the various emotions that come with that, which that's fine. Have your moment where you feel those things, but then you have to get to a place of, okay, this is just information. This is literally just information. These labels that the allopathic world gives, it's just their label for a collection of symptoms, which are just pointing to the imbalance in the body. So it's getting yourself to a mindset of, okay, I can heal, I can do well. And then looking at other people, looking at all of the success stories, looking for the testimony stories, looking for the ways that other people have done well, and focus on those, magnify that instead of magnifying the problem. So
Yeah, it's
that
the
was,
hope, right? It's having hope and inspiration versus holding on to fear, which
yes,
lowers our immune system.
exactly. There's so many things that, you know, happens in the body when we do get into fear. And so, you know, our minds are powerful. You know, there's, like I said before, I'm a person of faith. So I mean, there's scripture that says, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he, and that there's power of life and death in the tongue. But if you look at the work of Dr. Bruce Lipton, that's the science that backs all of that up, is that you can change your cells expression, you can change your DNA expression by your words and by your thoughts. And so it's learning to focus on those things and speaking life. And so that's something that I'm always helping my clients to reframe, you know, reframe what's happening to them, reframe maybe their reactions to the healing process. and what I share with people is healing's not linear, and so it's a lot of undulations. It's a lot of ups and back and forth. And, sometimes you feel like, oh gosh, I've just, I've this huge setback and I've taken, 3 steps backwards. But then I have to remind people, okay, but look at where you came from.
Right.
So it's just always reframing. So mindset is definitely a big part of what I've learned and what I teach.
Yeah. And I think that cycle of healing, we've been very conditioned, with oh, I have a headache, let me take an aspirin, and 30 minutes later, the headache is gone because we've blocked a pathway of pain that's, but we don't understand, why did we get the headache in the first place?
Right.
Right? Why is that happening? It's just information, right? All illness is just information that our body's communicating.
Yes.
And I think a lot of it is retraining people to understand that journey,
Mhm.
right? That it's not, you don't take something and it's gone when you've had diabetes for 20 years. It's going to take time for the body to heal and come back into balance.
Right. Well, and then also looking for what you could call low-hanging fruit. What are the things that are in your lifestyle that can be changed? Are you drinking enough water? Are you sleeping enough? What time are you going to bed? Is there light in your sleeping environment? How much time are you spending outside? I mean, even down to, big part of my healing journey has been, I'll go outside and I'll ground, because grounding gives the body the negative ions that you need to discharge the positive ions. The positive ions are coming from the things that we don't want. They're coming from the heavy metals.
Electricity.
Yes, coming from the electricity, the heavy metals, I mean, honestly, even a lot of our negative emotions bring a positive charge into the body. Going outside and grounding lowers inflammation. It's, raises the endorphins in the body. So all of these things. And even down to, as far as grounding goes, some people are like, okay, well, it's winter time and I can't really go outside and put my feet on the ground, barefoot. Well, the other thing you can do is go over to a tree and put your hands on the tree. So you can ground with your hands on a tree, be all bundled up if you need to be, but just getting outside and connecting with what God's put in the earth to help our bodies. That's another free, easy thing that you can do.
Yeah. And I think something else you said that I'd like to throw into this mix is surrounding yourself with positive people. I think
Yes.
you and I both had an experience where I had, my lovely family saying, you've got to do what the doctors are telling you, right? Because it was very fear-based.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to say, thank you. And I've got to listen to my body now. My body's saying that's not my path. So
Yes.
surrounding yourself with people that will support you and allow you to be empowered to make your decisions
Yes.
and just hold you in that space versus challenging you to do it a different way or the standard way.
Yes, absolutely. And people who will speak words of life over you and words of encouragement and
Yeah.
hold space for you in that way. That's, yeah, absolutely huge. And if that means doing what I did, which was staying quiet for a while about it, and finding other people. So tons of great support groups online, or going into faith communities, or, support groups, that sort of thing. Maybe those are the people that you find that you can talk to more about it, because they're going to breathe life and speak life into you. So you don't necessarily have to share with everybody. Sometimes maybe we feel like there's an obligation of, I have to tell my family, or I have to tell, certain people because it's this person.
Right.
And it doesn't necessarily have to go that way.
So what are some of the tools that you use now? I know you've mentioned some with the grounding to help your clients. And what kinds of things do you focus on?
Yes. So my entire practice is virtual. So I don't see anybody in person. I do have some tools that I am frequency-based devices that I am experimenting with. I've used them on myself. I have some people that are local who I have, using as kind of test test clients on it before I open up a physical location. But everybody is virtual. So I've got people across the country, and I've even got some people overseas. And the foundation of everything that I do with people is the RCP, which that's Morley's body of work, the Root Cause Protocol. So it's heavily based with mineral balancing, and then also looking at your relationship to stress, because stress causes mass dysregulation, so I look at those things. I always do a hair tissue mineral analysis on people. I have a body of basic labs that I draw. We take those in as information and then start walking the process of balancing the minerals from the emotional standpoint as well. I use a lot of things with vagal nerve exercises. I have a lot of resources that I send people with somatic release, because when we go through life and trauma can be anything big or small, but the body holds on to it. It stores trauma in the tissues. And so it's really important to release that. So I work with somatic release exercises, emotional freedom technique to help with that sort of thing. So I give people those resources. I use a lot of herbs. Of course, Jen, you and I both love the gemotherapy, the plant stem cells, because they're so incredibly powerful. So those are big tools for me that I use, and I see very good results with people with those. I do throw in some homeopathy as needed, and some of that can be for symptom relief, but also some of it is for getting the body to resonate with the proper frequencies. A lower frequency in the body is one that would bring more symptoms and more loosely say disease states, but that's what the allopathic world, to use some language the allopathic world would understand. So a lower vibrational frequency comes with sickness. And so I use things, in homeopathy to help raise the vibrational frequency of the cells so that they can resonate, so that they have the energy that they need to do the job that they're supposed to do, to handle the pathogens, to shed the toxic metals and other chemical exposures, the things that our modern world we come in contact with. So that's a large part of what I do with people. And but I'm also a huge researcher. So there are things that I research for people and make recommendations that are outside of those realm, maybe some therapeutic devices to use. Have some clients that are using various therapeutic things like Brown's gas machine, red light, near infrared light, saunas, things of that nature.
And you have a device called Monocore as well.
Yes.
So share a little bit about that, because that's something you have in your home.
Yes, I do. I learned of this. I spent some time in California last year, and it was an amazing experience. It was a clinic out there that the clinic director basically told me, he said, for 3 weeks, I'm just going to train you. I was out there getting all the goodies for myself. But he did tell me, he said, I feel like, God has spoken to me about what your purpose is. So he trained me out there. They use Monocore. Monocore it's a frequency-based system. It runs off of Rife technology, but it also has an AI component where it scans the body. It looks for all the organ systems that are not operating optimally. And then it sends corrective frequencies to help raise the vibrational frequency of all of the various organ systems that, might need a little of assistance. But then also you can go in and look for programs. Say you're dealing with parasites and the exact parasites. You can send the frequencies to the body that helps the body to eliminate the parasites. You can work on a variety of different health issues with that device in that way. So that is something that I have used. I bought one for myself after having been out in California, and also learning from several other people in across the country that are using it in their clinical practices, and they see great results. It's definitely a helpful adjunct. Yeah.
Well, and it's a reminder that we are mostly energy, right? We are frequency beings. That's why things like grounding and these types of devices support our body and healing.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
right. It's our future is sound, frequency, and light.
Yes. Yes. I mean, you have an energy field. I mean, that's scientifically backed. You have an energy field that extends out from the body. And so there are different ways of testing it and seeing how far is your energy field out, and then also how healthy is it.
Right.
So, there's a lot of people, you hear the old statement of all disease begins in the gut. And I don't agree with that. It's in your energy.
It starts in your energy field. Yeah.
Yes, it starts in your energy field. So
that was one of the things that I learned at Barbara Brennan was imbalance in your, in your health starts out here in your energy field, right? And it goes through your belief system. That's the Bruce Lipton. Then it goes through your emotional body. That's the somatic stuff. And then when it can't resolve in those levels, it hits the physical body. And because we can see, feel, touch the physical body, that's when we go, oh crap, I have a problem. Right?
Yes.
We sometimes ignore those other layers or realms because we can't see them necessarily.
Yes, absolutely. Which is where doing the various things that are the low-hanging fruit are beneficial to have in your life. Is how is your stress response? How are you handling things? Do you have a good support system? Do you spend time in prayer or meditation? Do you go outside and ground? How are you drinking good, clean water? Do you remineralize your water? Are you getting, appropriate amounts of sleep at the correct amounts of time? Like, all of these things help our energetic body to be healthy. So,
right.
Yeah,
and many of them are free.
Yes. Oh, yes.
They don't cost a thing except doing the intention of following through and going outside, getting sunshine, grounding, going to bed early, staying off these devices, which are so addictive.
Oh, yes. Yes, for sure. And then, good nutrition. Our bodies have to have fuel. They have to run off of the appropriate fuel. I mean, you wouldn't take your car that, of course, now we have electric cars too, but you wouldn't take your car that runs off of regular gasoline and put diesel in it.
Right.
Going to completely ruin the engine.
Right. You'll blow it up.
Right. Yeah. So you wouldn't put the wrong fuel in your car. So why are you putting the wrong fuel in your body? And so, there's so many different aspects of health that just, it's a lifestyle. It's a way of being.
Right. So as we wrap up, what is some advice that you have for the audience on how to stay healthy or get healthy? And then share where they can find you if they'd like to do sessions with you.
Yes,
which I highly encourage.
Yes. So it starts with mindset. So know that you're not broken, you're just out of balance. And so keeping that at the forefront of your mind and realizing, okay, I'm having this symptom pop up. Okay, it's information, but it's solvable. That is something. Mindset is huge. I know that's the foundation of where I started. When everything completely fell apart for me, I rejected any words of permanency or, the doom and gloom that might have come with what was going on. I rejected all of that. And it was, no, okay, this is solvable. And there are things that, on paper, they may look one way, but I'm always like, nah, there's a way to fix this. There's a way to solve it. And so it's keeping mindset. That's the first thing, is your mindset. You need to be in a place of recognizing that your body is wonderfully made. it is capable of repairing itself and regenerating itself in so many ways. So staying out of a place of fear, staying out of, pity or worry or whatever, but also get people on a team around you. And what I've always tell people is we work for you. I work for my clients. Doctors work for their patients. And sometimes people forget that. They think that it's the other way around, but it's actually not. And so it's the awareness of you're in the driver's seat. So when people come to me, I want them to know that they are empowered so that they can Barbara O'Neill talks about people being their own doctor. And so I tell people, I'm not your guru. I'm here to help you, to educate you. And I can hold your hand as much as you want me to, but ultimately I want to empower you to make the good choices. So
Right.
that's a big part of where it all starts. The where to find me is my website is stewardyourtemple.com. So my practice is called Steward Your Temple Wellness. So you can find me at stewardyourtemple.com. You can also email me at stewardyourtemple@proton.me. And I'm happy to walk a journey with anybody. It runs the gamut, the people who I work with. And I see people, their bodies overcome things that their doctors told them, no, this is a lifelong thing. It'll never be solved. And, I'm living proof of the fact that these lifelong things that can never be solved are actually solvable.
Are solvable. Yeah.
Yeah.
What the body can create, it can uncreate. I totally believe that.
Yes.
And you didn't share this, but I want to brag about you for a second as we close. So Lisa works with a lot of clients, and she had a client who has gotten better, and a world-renowned cancer doctor looked at the program she put together and said, I would not change a thing. Everything you're doing is spot on. And I just want to brag about you for that, because that is amazing.
Thank you.
I know that doctor, and he's amazing. So, amazing work that you're doing. And I love the fact that you've taken what you've gone through, from pain to purpose, and turned it
Yes.
into something that is changing lives and saving lives for many people. So
Yes.
thank you so much for being here. It's such an honor.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And it's an honor to know you and to work alongside you. You've been great in my whole journey.
Well, back at you. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everyone.